I would just like to preface we never hit record.
Oh, for fuck's... All
3,
right.
2, 1.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
All right. What the... Okay.
Christ. Kill me.
Let me see how this is sounding.
I have no idea if we sound
Sounds
the
fine.
same
Sounds
different.
fine.
Anybody's out there listening, let us know. Do we sound the same? Help.
Sounds fine. As far I just checked it, we both sounded too... Maybe it's because you have your thing on automatic, whatever. Let's just get into this.
So, everybody, welcome to another episode of Class Horrorcast. Today, we're diving into the recent news and announcements surrounding Scream 7, from the shocking return of fan favorites like Matthew Lillard and Scott Foley to all the wild theories buzzing around online. Could we see Stu leading a Ghostface cult, Roman Bridger's legacy returning to haunt Sidney, or even a killer using deepfake AI to terrorize the survivors? We're going to break it all down with all the possibilities and exploring how this next chapter could shake up the Scream universe. So, Tom, let's get into it. How are you today?
Not too bad. Not too shabby, they might say.
Have you had your finger on the pulse for this Scream stuff, or has it only just kind of come to light for you in the last couple of days?
I heard rumors prior to this that my boy Stu might be coming back because he is my boy. He's one of my favorite characters in this whole franchise for sure. Billy and Stu remind me of Billy and me, my co-host of my show, but technically he would be Stu and I would definitely be Billy, where I'm kind of directing it and then I stab him a little too deep and then he cries about it.
You think so?
Yeah,
Actually,
I
yeah,
would
no,
be the
yeah,
mastermind. You know I would be.
yeah, I
Uh,
think actually.
but it would be wow. Imagine if Stu is actually the mastermind. But I've kind of heard rumors of this and that. I am a big fan of this franchise. It's one of my favorite franchises. It's up there. Like to me as a whole, it probably, and I love Nightmare on Elm Street. I love Friday the 13th, but it probably beats them both when it comes to consistency in some regard and uh how well together it's put, how every single movie can stand alone. You can't really say that about Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th. There's definitely some ones that are still fun, but they're garbage. Like Freddy as a kid. That one will always stick out to me as like, why did you guys need to do that?
Yeah, there's definitely. So I've always seen the argument that Scream is one of the few franchises that doesn't have a bad sequel. Now, I do get that sentiment and I agree with it in some sense, but I will say, right, the more I think about the franchise, and I've been thinking about it a lot over the last like week or so with some of this news, um, I would say that number 5 and number 6 are my least favorite from the entire franchise. I get what they were going for, but I don't know how I feel about the whole like Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera or whatever her name is. Wasn't overly keen. I get what they were trying to do. They were trying to pass the torch to like a new era, and you have to kind of do that to continue it on. You can't just do the same shit over and over again. But like, I don't know, it just felt kind of weak for me, and I don't know how I felt about Sam having those like flashbacks of her dad and her dad as Billy, and is it a
Okay,
bit
yeah, okay, I
weird?
agree. Yeah. If you're gonna go with that route, like I did enjoy those movies. I liked five. There's good and bad things. I did like the killers. Um, what's his name is kind of a weak ass, but the chick kind of her crazy like, oh man, it's gonna bug me. Whatever her name is. She's an interesting. We talked about her once. She's an interesting in our deep dive. Uh,
Mikey Madison or whatever.
yeah,
That's the
Mikey Madison. Yeah, there's something about her. And I liked her as a killer. Even the 6 1 was cool. They kind of harkened back to like all the older the killers that came before, so to speak. And but yeah, there's something lacking about it. It was fun because it is this like it is a pretty expensive showpiece. You know what I mean? It's a film that they put a lot of money into, and that it does kind of keep you on edge. It is one of those fun movies to go see in theaters, but comparatively to all of them, I'm not like yeah, like I would. I wouldn't rank it. It would probably go backwards for me almost in some regard of like
Yeah,
from best
yeah,
to
yeah.
work. Like, you know what I mean? Because I get what you're saying. I did really like them. I did, but compared to like 1, 2, and 3, especially, those are masterpieces in my opinion. It's just, and it's because obviously we grew up on them too, right? That we've seen them so many times. They've kind of been ingrained into our head.
Yeah, I definitely feel that, and I'm glad you're of the same mind as me. I absolutely love that original trilogy, and I don't care. I'll fight someone to the death when they say, "Oh, number 3 is garbage." I'm like, "Nope, nope. It's that's included in my original timeline. I do
Yeah.
not care. I don't wanna hear anybody say anything about it." Look, it could have been better. I get that they did change the script, like, halfway through shooting, and they removed stuff and added stuff, and you can see there's obviously glaring issues.
I see the mom coming back and her like wearing the sheet and being like some sort of zombie flashback just as bad as the Billy thing though.
Which is, I suppose, we're gonna bring to light now very shortly some of the theories and some of the reasons people think that some of these announcements have been made about number 7, and then concerns, I guess, over are we gonna get more of that kind of thing? Now, I would like to hope so. Kevin Williamson, who is
Oh yeah,
a
I
key
heard
part
about
of
that.
the original movies, like, I mean, he wrote the original movies. He's gonna direct this movie, and I want to think that he knows enough about the franchise, the community, the story, and what people may actually want to see, and a cool way to bring it back. I don't wanna see people are talking about these comebacks of, legacy characters. Please don't make them all weird flashbacks. Like, I don't want Sidney walking around being like, "Oh my god, it's Roman. Oh my god, it's Stu. I'm seeing them in my mind."
Yeah, I don't want that either.
Like, I
But
don't want.
to kind of defend the third one, when I did see it as a kid, it did freak me out though. The blood sheet like
Oh, yeah,
mom,
freaky.
it's
Freaky, man.
weird, and her strolling through her yard and stuff like that because
When
like
she comes up to the window and she's like, "Ugh."
but that's yeah, that was weird. That's when they kind of pushed that thing of being able to use flashbacks, right? But it was based on Sydney's trauma because that whole thing would have traumatized her, and then you don't know how your brain's going to react to some of that stuff. So, you know what I mean? But this is going to be kind of weird. I don't want all these flashbacks. Like I thought the couple that they did with seeing Stu or with seeing Billy was one thing. They didn't need to do it as often. Like that whole thing of like him passing the knife to her or what it was so bad. And I'm like, part of me was like, yeah, but like really cringy. You know what I mean?
It was, you see, and that's what kinda took me out of it, and then they had that weird thing where for a second, it gave you that feeling. Remember, doesn't she pick up the mask? And it's like that weird, is she gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be just like my dad," or is she
Yeah.
gonna, and then she's like, "Nah," and she, like, throws the mask away or whatever, or throws it in the bin or whatever she does with it to,
Oh,
like,
at the end,
signify that
yeah.
she's like, "Ugh," I'm like, "I'm over this. I'm not a killer like dad." And it's just, I don't know, I just found that, like, massively tacky.
I know. I still like the ending of that movie and them kind of getting vengeance and it's kind of it harkens back to Sydney when she puts on the costume and she stabs Stu with the umbrella like she's some sort of penguin. Like there's parts I did like. There's little things that you're like a little cringy. Did you need to add that? Probably not really. And it's funny because what's his name? Ulrich
Yeah, Skeet.
Skeet, Ulrich. That means come for everybody. If you didn't know, and you remember that song by Little John where it's like, skeet. I didn't know that was come. So he's just saying, come, like it's like spraying his jizz everywhere. That's literally a thing. I didn't know that when I was a kid. It's just funny
Today I
how
learned.
yeah, today I learned what skeet means. And his name means come. But Skeet Ulrich, they didn't do a very good job either at like making him look like young himself. You know what I mean?
Ooh, the de-aging CGI, and this, it reminds me of another recent movie, Alien Romulus, where they bring back the android guy.
Don't ruin it because I'm gonna
No,
watch it
I'm
this
not.
weekend. Hopefully,
This doesn't ruin it in any way.
yeah,
I think he actually show like a clip or something that in the trailer.
yeah.
But when they bring back the android guy, and rather than just let it be a cool, because it was a prosthetic piece they used,
Mhm.
rather than just let it be that, which looked cool, they also, you could tell they tried to like reskin him as well with like de-aging CGI, and it was the weirdest looking. It was like the prosthetic thing was moving, but then like, you know, when you say like touch
Oh
up
yeah,
appearance, and it's like your lips are kind of moving out of sync with like the
yeah.
thing. So it's like
I
this
turned
weird.
it off because it kept making my eyes look weird, like I
That's what
was
I'm saying.
wearing
It's like,
makeup.
yeah, it's like you blink and then like the fake eyes blink
Yeah,
just a split second after you do, so it makes it look, and it looked like that,
yeah.
and that's kind of what that Billy de-aging reminded me
Look like
of in Scream 2.
Madonna.
Yeah, I was like, "Why does he look like?"
I
Because he
know.
looks like a 50-something-year-old man that's, like, 16.
Don't get me wrong. I want Randy to have survived all those stabs. I would have loved that. That's not gonna happen, but I would love. It's just like we didn't know, but Randy's been isolated on this farm for years, and he survived the stab wounds. But also, I want Steve to survive. Have survived the TV on his head so bad because he only got stabbed up. The ambulance came right away. Technically, like
Yeah, look, you are
that
right about
one
that.
guy, that black guy got stabbed a bajillion times and he came back.
Yeah, that's just too much for me. I like, everyone's like, "I don't wanna see him die in any of the, like, sequels or anything because we need, like, a strong male character now that Dewey's dead and blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Yeah, I get it because it is kind of like there's about 17 female leads now."
Didn't he
So I
die? What's their DEI hire? Did he die? The black guy, what's his name? Did he? Because he got stabbed, like,
from the
and
newer ones.
yeah,
No,
he
that
didn't survive.
I can't think of his name. Yeah, no, he does survive.
That's stupid.
Yeah, no, I remember when it happens, they'd bring him out in a stretcher or something, and he's doing that thing where it's all like, "Oh, I'll be fine," and I'm like, "Wow, that is the most unbelievable."
I did like when they stabbed him up though. That shit was wild. When you don't expect that there's two of them, and then like some of those scenes in the new ones of
And
the
yeah.
brutality is fucking awesome
Oh,
though.
yeah, it is, and, like, to be honest, right, I didn't know how I felt about the idea of, you know, when they go into, like, that bodega and, Ghostface gets, like, the
Oh, and he
shotgun.
used the shotgun.
And at first, right, I remember seeing that and be like, "Oh, no, Ghostface doesn't use a shotgun."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I'm like, then I'm thinking about it, and I'm like,
Like
"Actually,
a
you know what?
fake
That's
one.
kind of cool to, like, bring that into a more modern day, like, that he would kind of use anything to get his way." I did kinda like that.
I thought that was kind of different, and it was cool to see him with a shotgun on.
So here's something interesting. So Reign of Horror says, "I wonder if they will pull a Halloween Resurrection where we see that Michael switch spots with the paramedic. Stu somehow switch spots with someone to escape." So, okay, right?
I want Stu to survive. Like, you
Yeah,
know how
and I think
wild that'd be?
everyone does, right? And the only the so there's I want him to be alive so bad, right? And just in a way as simple as that. I don't care if they give me a Halloween Resurrection answer. But I will say there is some glaring issues with if he survives. Okay, so let's say he survives and he didn't switch spots with anybody. He just, when they get there, he just happens to be alive. Now, the first question is, why haven't we heard about that in Scream 2 or 3? Where has he been? How come none of the main characters know? Oh yeah, Stu was locked up in an insane asylum, or he's in jail for the next 100 years, or like there's been no reference to him being alive. So it's gonna be hard unless they retcon everything after the first movie ends. Like they'd have to get rid of number 2 and 3. So then if they do that, then why are they bringing back Roman Bridger from number 3?
Roman got shot in the fucking head, man. Right directly.
I want him to be alive as well. Like this, people are gonna give me saying this, right? I want Roman Bridger to be alive as well. I loved his character, and I feel like they could have fleshed him out way better.
Yeah. What if
So it's
Stu and Billy come back as hallucinations for one of the Ghostface while Rogan does the same in the second Ghostface killer?
see again though, that's just
I don't know.
like again, it's probably gonna end up being something like that, but I just feel like it makes me cringe massively. I'm like, I hope not everyone in the movie's been all like, "Oh, the past ghost faces are like making me all crazy."
I don't want that at all. Roman, they can have a he meant Roman, I'm sure. Not who's Rogan? Joe
I would
Rogan
imagine
comes back?
I would imagine it.
I'm just kidding. It's like Joe Rogan. Somebody just has a flashback for some reason. But Roman, the flashback of him would make sense because they're trying to like tie things together. So not even a flashback, but like something that we didn't see. Not even a flashback of somebody's memory, but like a cut scene that we didn't see. You know, we
'Cause
see
it
Roman lettuce kind of like with his mom and stuff like that, and like the connections of why he's what you know what I mean? Why he's connected to Sidney, what happened to him, maybe why he developed that trauma where he wanted to kill her. I don't know.
like, I try to pull a lot of stuff together here from, like, online theories and different things and stories and stuff people have come up with and just stuff that came into my own mind. So, what if, right, because of all of this, so the options for people seem to be either flashback scenes, old footage, some sort of visions from either Gale or Sydney that they're having, like, these weird, like, visions of, like, "Oh my god, I'm
Don't want
seeing
that.
Billy and Stu again." Or it's some sort of deep fake AI where the new killer is, like, using that to which technically then they wouldn't have to de-age him or anything. They could just make them 50 something years old, and it would, like, fuck with Sydney because 'cause she'd be like, how is Roman speaking to me on a video 30 years older than he was when he died?" And then you could just use the excuse of being like, "Well, it's deep fake, like, it's aged forward
I
AI."
like that idea more for Stu. The Roman thing, like he got shot in the head. If there's no other way to like Stu could have technically survived. That is
Yeah,
he got stabbed up, but not that much. Like not compared to that other fucking guy Chad or whatever his name is. And Stu, like the TV on the head, that would have just cut his face up with the glass. It wouldn't have electrocuted him. That wouldn't have happened. That's not reality. May have shocked him slightly, but it wouldn't once the TV breaks, it wouldn't have done anything.
yeah. Now I do think it's probably a mixture of everything we're talking about, to be honest. I don't think because we're getting all these announcements of characters coming back that it means they're all coming back in the same capacity. I just
Yeah.
think they will utilize them in different ways to tie it back maybe to the original trilogy.
There's that picture. Um, he did act like he was electrocuted or shocked, which was like, but I don't how would have that happened? Because even if as soon as it falls, it would have unplugged, and then that's just my theory. But he did go, and you can hear him like do it in the film, right? Uh, but there's that image that circulated around the internet of like him in the cop car and his face is cut up and shit like that. And it's like he's like healed, and there's that theory that maybe he's controlling stuff behind the scenes within the jail. But we would have heard it. You know what I mean? Like heard about him still being in
Yes,
jail, and
this is the
Sydney would have
problem.
said something, or Gail would have said
Yeah,
something.
this was the
Um,
problem.
yeah,
So then how do you explain that without retconning everything after the ending of number 1,
I
which
know.
I don't think Kevin Williamson is gonna get rid of the lore or the storylines from 2 and 3, and then especially if you've Roman involved again, I just don't see why you would do that.
It's
Now,
so
I
weird.
wouldn't mind there is people out there that say maybe he's gonna retcon 5 and 6 and just remove them from the storyline, and we're not gonna have anything to do with, like, Sam having visions, and it's like, "Oh, my dad and all is trying to make me Ghostface, man." He's just
It
gonna
would
get
be
rid of that.
weird if he did that because I don't
Now if
know.
he does the problem is, you see, if he does do that, then how do we explain? Because it's already been announced that Chad guy or whatever he is, he's coming back.
Of course,
So then
yes,
how
that
is
would
he
make
back in it?
sense.
Now, I do know, isn't he Randy's nephew or something?
Yeah, even though
One
he's
of the
black.
niece.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's just such a weird, yeah. Again, just don't really understand all that, but strange.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
here's
Reign of Horses, let's admit those old school tube TVs weighed quite a bit. I agree, but I've researched people and how they like some people have survived some crazy shit, man. A guy's got stabbed directly through the forehead and survived because it missed
yeah,
like the frontal lobe of whatever, right?
people have gotten
Um,
shot in the head. I was
yeah.
actually looking at a true crime thing, recently, and it was like an interrogation video. And, they were interrogating this guy, and I think they were trying to say, like, his story was, like, bullshit or whatever, but the guy was acting real weird, and he was like, "I think I got shot," and, like, all this stuff, and they were kinda going like, I think you're just mad. I think you're actually a killer or a murderer. You're part of this, like, whatever's after happening." Turns out that the dude had a bullet lodged in his head the entire time they were interrogating him, and they didn't realize, and he starts, like, to,
That's
like, slump
crazy.
over in the chair and shit. So yeah, stranger
You
things
c
have happened.
I
Uh,
know, but then
Rain of
they
Fire
try to
actually
explain
does
away from
both
movies.
of our audio sound somewhat of a similar level, or is one of us louder than the other? I'm just curious now.
Yeah, let us know if we sound pretty close.
Rain of Horror says, I think he could split off and ignore any of the sequels and create a new timeline very similar to what we've seen Halloween do. Halloween has 4 different timelines. Yeah, we could technically see that, and I'm not against it necessarily if it's done in a tasteful way. I actually don't mind that because I was less of a fan of 5 and 6 than I am of the others. But again, I just want to see it done properly. So one thing with all this stuff being announced and these people coming back,
Bring back Charlie.
one thing people that's who I'd end up being. So what if we get an opening scene, right, of the film that shows Roman meeting with Stu and Billy to go over the plot to kill Maureen Prescott? So that would obviously mean, so there's been rumors now, right, that Skeet is also on contract for 3 movies, and he's only done. Oh, so I sound louder now.
But it's still, he said, but barely. So maybe I should just yell in the mic a little more.
I'll move away from the mic a bit.
Okay, that's fine.
Slightly. So yeah, so people were saying he signed a 3-picture deal, which would mean this next movie would be his 3rd one. And supposedly he's been in talks to come back. And so obviously he would have to come back as well. They would all have to be de-aged. What about if we got Maureen's kill as the opening kill? Because all these movies always open with a kill scene. What if we go all the way back to the original kill that started the entire thing, and that's the opening kill of the new movie?
That would make sense. And then what are they? They're just in there for just 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, and that's it.
I mean,
that would make the most sense, and that would be the most logical when it comes to how they could, why and how they would do this to not make audiences pissed off, or because people want Stu to come back. It's been said numerous times that would be a wild thing, but they don't want to do that because it's going to either people are going to really like it or they're going to really, really hate it.
But you could technically do that, right? And then leave the fans guessing the entire time about if Stu is actually still alive.
I want him to be alive.
I know, right? Rain of Horror says,
Rudder is in the chat. He lurks.
Any thoughts on them possibly bringing back? I would love to see Cotton Weary come back, to be honest with you. I love his character so much. So right, what we're just talking about, that ties into that Reign of Horror. So if that was going to be the case where the opening scene was going to be like maybe the setup for Maureen's death, we see kind of little behind the scenes, or the kill itself, that would also mean then the Cotton Weary would have to come back because he was the one that they framed as her killer in the original.
Yeah, true.
So then if we see him get cast, does that make that like a definite then? If he ends up being cast in the next few weeks,
then that must mean that that's what they're going to do.
Because it's filming, I think filming finishes on the 12th of March. So they still have another, 6 weeks?
Yeah.
So if he gets announced in that bit of time, or there's a leak of him on set,
then there's that it's either at the beginning or middle or end or something like that, where they tie everything back to the original kill of Maureen Prescott.
And then there's another thing I was thinking about, right? So if they show this, would we see this from a first-person perspective of a 4th person? Either another accomplice who ended up backing out, or someone we haven't found out about for some reason, or someone who somehow witnessed all of this stuff? Like, are we going to see it from another person's point of view watching? Like, how are we going to actually see that?
Mm-hmm.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Will they bring someone else into the mix? And that'll be a way to be like, oh, well, there was also this other person that we didn't talk about, but now they're potentially the new killer in number 7.
Of course, and it's like just the family tree. Just keeps expanding.
Yeah, it's some weird tacky thing where it's like, it's actually her brother's sister's mother came back and she wants her because you didn't like her.
It's your long lost Uncle Bobby.
We could see it from Billy's point of view as well. That's true. Like, there's a lot of ways I think they can go with this. And I feel like that if we did see this, it definitely wouldn't rule out Stu being alive. I mean, if we see it all play out, right, and then we're led to believe the events played out exactly as we saw, only for him to be revealed as alive at the end of 7. Or maybe we don't find out the killers at the end. So if you think about it, every movie is pretty much cut and dry at the end. Like, we get the ending. It's like, here's the killers, they get shot, blah, 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 everyone gets over it. And then the next movie starts with like a whole new thing of like, well, that person you killed in the last movie is actually my cousin's girlfriend, so I'm back.
Yeah.
And then they do that, and we get the whole thing again. So what if we didn't find out who the killer was at the end, or there's some sort of a cliffhanger, or what if we have to wait till part 8 to actually have like the full story
Yeah,
reveal?
because thinking of 6, I don't like there. I'm not gonna lie, like I liked the ending. I liked what they kind of did to some extent. Yeah, there might be flashbacks. I I didn't really like any of the killers. Not gonna lie. Um,
And it just for me, right? It
the
felt
dad was
yeah.
like almost he overacted. There were some scenes where he's like
I'm
talking to
really
them.
mad. I'm a Ghostface killer. I'm really mad at you.
Yeah, it was overacted, and then it was like, oh, of course. Oh, there's 3 killers, but yeah, the 2 are the other sister and brother, and it's like it wasn't as shocking, especially the cop. Like my wife thought it was the cop. It just kind of made sense. And the other 2 were just thrown in to be more of a surprise. But out of all of the killers out of the entire series, I think they were the worst. All 3
Yeah,
of them. I
yeah,
would rather have
100%.
Jill or what's her name, or even what's that guy? Quaid.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I would
I'd
much
rather have
prefer that.
him. He
Yeah, I'd
did
much prefer him.
there's I'll have to well maybe repost or something like that. But I made all those little clips of like the killers for when we did the deep dive. I'll have to repost them at some point or send them to you. And like he does a pretty good job when he's kind of like toying with them and stuff like that. I thought it was okay. Better than the newer one in my
Show
opinion.
how Sidney's mom got killed and maybe showed Roman the truth. Yeah, that's I definitely think there's gonna be something to do with that, like, to tie the legacy end of it up. Um, there's also been talks online that, Emma Roberts is coming back to reprise her role as Jill from part 4. So,
What?
does that mean then that Sydney's gonna have some sort of hallucinations of previous killers haunting her? To be honest, I wrote this down, I was like, I would absolutely hate this idea because it was used for Sam's character with Billy, and I just feel like it'd be another shoehorned piece that's put in it. Will Sydney be calling back to previous movies and experiences to try and figure out links to a new killer? Is this
I don't
how
want to see them bring back like fucking everybody, and she's like sitting there like writing on a piece of paper, or she has one of those dartboards like Charlie Day is trying to figure out like what the conspiracy is, and I just don't want to see her. And then it's like you see like Jill appear, and then like, I don't want to see any of that. That will piss me off. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, that's just not for me. Billy should be de-aged. Yeah, you see, the problem with that is, right, we say we talk about de-aged, right, and we're talking about deep fakes and AI for this in 2025, which is a lot of scary stuff, right? A lot of it's fantastic. A lot of it's also shite.
I
Like,
know.
the idea of being like, "All right, okay, let me de-age." Yeah, but we're still in the era, unfortunately, where it still looks like a 55-year-old man with a plastic face. Like, I'm looking at a
What
couple.
about Britney Spears dance around with knives and stuff, and it like her face changes? That's not the same person, right? So the technology that the government and the like CIA, God knows what, some of those 3-letter agencies, what they have compared to us is like probably beyond bananas. They
Maybe
only
that's what
show us,
we need to get, like, the FBI in as the producer.
dude. They only show us so much, right? Look at those sassy looking robots that are walking around the malls and shit now. See those videos? Like how much what kind of military tech do they have? So like I don't know. You could do the AI thing is just scary if it's done right because I hate AI and I don't like deep fakes and you
Yeah,
know
and so that was another thing then I was writing this down earlier. I was trying to think of, like, all the different ways you could do this. So, obviously, everyone's talking about flashback scenes, etcetera. Then I was thinking about using the, like, AI meta storyline thing, which would be more in line, I guess, with Scream and, like, how they try and, like, be quite trendy and, like, forward thinking and futuristic. So, obviously, movie studios now are, like, doing this thing where they're using dead people's likenesses for movie roles to help push movie promotions and shit like that. So, now the only thing is, right, I don't see how this would work with a masked killer, but maybe the idea of using, like, video of, like, previous killers' voices or using their faces to, like, taunt Sydney maybe, or trying to make her think that somehow these people are still alive. Maybe some of them actually are. Is that like a red herring for, like, we don't we don't know, is one of those alive? Is Stu alive somehow? Is Jill alive? Is whoever alive? I know some of them won't be able, like you said, Roman got shot in the head, so he's not alive, but are they gonna pepper in all these different people in that kind of way? Are these announcements that we're getting on purpose? I know people keep talking about, "Oh, it's been leaked, and this thing was leaked, and then they had to announce it because it was leaked." If anyone remembers, Scream is one of the franchises that has been notoriously good for announcing things on purpose as
Yeah.
part of like getting the fan theories going.
Gaslighting people.
Yeah, to like throw the audience off. So everyone's like going around screaming, going mad. And it's like part of the promotion. It's like part of the whole thing. Like think about Scream 3 even if people don't like it, how meta that whole thing was. It was like they were
I
shooting a
know.
movie about a movie while you're watching a movie about that, and the people in it are cast as actors playing the role of characters who were also in the
Yeah,
movie.
and we talked about this in the deep dive. One problem I have with Scream 3 is there's no gore. They cut out all the kill scenes because of Columbine. Fucking shootings.
Yeah, that really fucked with that movie.
Yeah, and they fucked with a lot of things. Thanks, CIA.
We were supposed to have 2 killers originally in Scream 3, and then that got pulled as well.
Of course, right? Because fucking Derek Harris and
And
Dylan Cobalt.
remember the chick that was
Derek
playing
Harris.
Sidney in Stab 3? The weird
Yeah.
short
Oh
haired.
yeah.
Remember she finds her in the bathroom and she has like the scream mask and the phone.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
like, "Oh, I wanted to be you, and I want some
I
memory."
like the props.
Yeah, she was supposed to be the other accomplice, and I think they pulled that as well because they were like, the whole Columbine thing. Let's not have 2. Let's not do any of that.
Yes.
But supposedly, if you rewatch part 3 with that lens, you'll see lots of shots of her showing up where you're like, huh, weird. And there's a couple of situations I think where it's actually timeline-wise physically impossible for Roman to have been somewhere, killed somebody, and then be on the other side of LA like an hour later and kill somebody else.
Yeah. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't want them to bring back everybody. Or is it gonna be like, yeah, they're taunting them with these? How did Jill die again?
I actually can't remember. That's a good question.
Also,
Another thing that's interesting is, so the movie is going to release sometime next year, which is obviously around the 30th anniversary of the original. So will it actually be set in that current timeline? Is the new killer looking to make Sidney the more?
Oh yeah, she electrocutes her and then shoots her in the chest while she's still alive, effectively finishing her off as she tries to attack Sidney with a glass shard. Essentially, Jill is killed by a combination of electrocution and a gunshot wound. She could survive that. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, anybody could survive anything, really, to be fair, in this shit. Yeah,
even in real life, dude. I don't know.
Yeah,
Getting shot in the chest is only one thing, and then electrocuting shot in the chest, you could survive. Maybe make you a little more crazy.
But I wondered then, if Kevin Williamson has taken this over, is it with the intention of having a completely new trilogy, maybe? Because obviously Sidney seems to be, the idea seems to be that Sidney is going to be like the focal point of the films again. She's not going to be like that character that comes in like Laurie Strode and goes, "Yeah, kick ass kids, I'm here."
Well, are they signed on for more? Because I thought she wanted to. I thought Nev Campbell was like over this shit.
I don't think anything's been announced officially, but they've said like that this movie is going to focus on her and her kids and stuff. Now,
is it to bring in new people then? I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I don't know how I feel about it. I think I'd rather them do a trilogy again with the legacy cast, right? If they're going to do it, and then just be done with it and leave Scream alone for like 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
Like, as bad as that sounds.
And then give it to us when we're in the midst of World War III, and then it'll distract everybody.
Is the reveal of a 4th killer in the original Maureen murder, is that like the key to the whole thing? Is there a way to completely retcon the past few movies and just continue from either part 3, part 4? Obviously, like I said before, the Meeks twins are returning, but maybe there's a way to bring them into the current timeline without including the Carpenter sister story. But then it just starts to feel really convoluted, because now we've got like, by trying to do that, you've created like 18 different timelines in the space of one movie. So it's
I don't even get how they're connected to Randy. It's
just not for me.
Doesn't make sense.
I get what we were trying to do, but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
I also seen people mention the idea that if we have new killers, right? So get this now, see what you think of this. So new killer or new killers using extremely realistic masks of previous killers to scare and taunt the legacy cast into thinking somehow they are still alive, confusing them and the audience before finally revealing who they might actually be.
It'd be interesting to pull that off to some regard, because they do have mass technology they've had since the 60s. The CIA and the FBI and other 3 other agencies have been using that type of technology. They had like old man masks that would fool someone if they were like kind of far away. Now they have some crazy ones. I have videos of it. I think Jim Carrey played Joe Biden. There's a lot of theories about that and the way he walks and talks, and there is a video footage of this woman. She's on a talk show. She's wearing like a fat suit and a mask, and the guy's like, and it's in like Europe or something like that, and he's like speaking. I don't know what he's speaking, some European bullshit language. Just kidding, everybody, calm down. And he's like, oh, let me see that, and he's like, maybe it's Russia or something. He's pulling on her face, and you can see it's like it's a mask, and then it like goes back in, and it's like all made of like it's a real like mask, but she looks like a different person.
Now, so I actually do kind of like that idea, but then the problem is, right, we do kind of need a somewhat plausible explanation as to how you can't just be like, you know, some 17-year-old kid that like became obsessed with slasher movies and likes true crime somehow got access to like CIA level. It can't be just dumb. Like, and then I also don't want to see like, well, some FBI guy just went crazy one time. He was working a case and he became obsessed and decided to wear faces and be a killer.
No, I don't want that either.
I don't want that either, because that just seems like bullshit. But then I guess if you use the previous killers like that, it would kind of create a weird situation for Gail and Sidney and keep the audience on the edge of their seat. Like, who is the killer? Are any of these images somehow real? The social commentary then, which is something that Scream has always been big on the increasing scariness of AI and how our perceptions of reality can be skewed by the internet, AI, deep fakes, social media, stuff like that. So there's definitely a potential undertone there. I've seen many people saying that they feel like Sidney will be extremely paranoid in the movie due to past experiences, the extent of Gail's injuries from the previous movie, and her not being there for it, Dewey's death, leading her to only. So a lot of people have this fixation that she won't take calls anymore. She's going to have this complex where she's like, I only do video calls, like FaceTime, which is where people feel like the need for the AI aspect will come in. I don't like this idea at all. I don't know, like, and people saying about her having like kind of like being paranoid and having panic attacks. And we're gonna see, remember like in Halloween H2O where Jamie Lee Curtis, she's like looking in the window of a store and then she sees like Michael Myers behind her and it's like dun, and then like she's somewhere else and she sees him in like a mirror.
Yes,
Like, people were talking about that. I don't want to see that. Like, it's way too overused. It's not in line, I don't think, with how clever the Scream franchise usually is on social commentary. And they're always been like quite ahead of the curve, I think. The announcements have definitely drummed up like massive publicity, but I don't know. I feel like fans would turn on it if they figure out that the killers are all being brought back for some weird like 20-second jump scare, like seeing them in the background thing.
Yeah, I think that will make people mad. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think they'll like that. Because then you're not doing like fan service is one thing, but when you're like purposely just doing it for fan service, which a lot of movies do, and then it doesn't ever work out that well, I don't want to see them do that, especially with this franchise. Because if they push it, they could get 3 more movies out of this that are like decent, or cap it off at 10 or whatever. Right?
I'm going to read something right from Reddit, and I'm going to give this person the credit and everything. This is just a complete fan theory, but I just thought it was interesting. A lot of people seem to be responding to this quite positively and like thought it might be a good little like way to bring it in. So it's from an account on Reddit called The Pictures Girl, and she calls it the Woodsboro Tapes. So as we see at the end of Scream 3, Roman recorded his movements in Woodsboro. I doubt the clips we see are the extent of it. Lynn McRae, that's the actress who played Maureen Prescott, she's been on several interviews like over the years, and she said, we actually filmed a lot more of that like stuff from when Maureen was supposed to be alive, and it just got cut from the movie because they said they just didn't have time for it, they needed to shorten the runtime, blah blah blah. Yeah. So maybe there was a fourth accomplice for her murder. In Scream 7, Sidney is mailed tapes or DVDs or something like that, USBs, by an anonymous person. A lot of it is the rest of Roman's footage, but one of them chills her to the core. It shows Roman, Billy, and Stu in a motel room planning out Maureen's murder. However, clearly there is a fourth person involved, the one holding the camera. One of the 3 turn to this person and the camera and say, "You know what you're doing, right? Have the getaway car ready. Don't fuck this up," or something along those lines. Then the tape cuts off. Sidney would obviously go all over Roman's tapes to look for clues from Woodsboro. Who was the accomplice? Is there a person still out there responsible for her mother's murder that needs to be brought to justice? That's when the script is flipped during the first act, and it's actually Sidney hunting the killer along with Gail, the OG investigative journalist on the case that essentially made her big time. The tapes could explain the return of Scott Foley, Matthew Lillard, but additionally, we could bring back Skeet, Cotton Weary, Maureen Prescott, Hank Loomis, even Laurie Metcalf as Nancy. So that is.
I don't mind that if that's where they're gonna take it. But the hotel scene, I want to see a circle jerk of all of them getting ready to to murder
Of
Maureen.
course you do. Of course you do.
It'd be. I know, I'm just kidding, but I can. When I picture them, I picture like just them all going like this, like hugging, like, "Are we ready to do this, boys?" Like they're all like super into it, because that would be weird to plan like a murder with your homies and shit like that. And like, obviously, if they knew each other well, Stu and Billy were homies, right? So like, or did Roman orchestrate it and brainwash them to some extent? But he would have been like kind of the same age as them.
So there's a I don't know what you would call it. There's a YouTube channel, a fan account called Beyond the Mask, who has covered the franchise for years and like has shared leaks and different things like that. And they shared something a couple of hours ago from a Twitter account called Cinestealth, who seems to leak a lot of stuff. Now, a lot of it actually ends up being like actual things that happen. And they tweeted, I think it was late last night or early this morning, and said, news of Lynn McRae, who played Sidney's mother, Maureen Prescott, has been rumored and set to return for Scream 7. This is a serious rumor and a serious leak. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but I think if that is the case and they're in conversations with her, why else?
Yeah, I know.
If it's not going to be a Maureen Prescott like flashback or scenes involving her murder and how it all came to be, then why would she even be in talks to come back? Now, there's also the idea that if Stu was alive, could you get off with saying that maybe they put him away for, I don't know, 20, 30 years and he kind of gets out? Because next year when it's released is the 30th anniversary of the original killing. So you could technically do that and make it out that like he was coerced by Billy to do it. Because there is kind of a weird he seems to kind of just like follow Billy around a bit.
Do you think they were like gay together or something?
Do you know there's a lot of
homoerotic? I'm sure there's some weird fucking Rule 34 porn out there for those two.
There's a lot of fans out there that believe that I don't want to say gay, but that
I was kidding, but
no, but seriously, like there was a lot of people out there that like have this theory that like maybe Stu was like really infatuated with Billy. Yeah. And he was like, I will literally do whatever. And Billy knew this and he was like, I'm just going to use this dumb motherfucker to like do my bidding for me. Because where am I going to find another idiot who's willing to just do whatever I say?
It's just the best character. Just like how over exaggerated his whole emotions were, and like, my mom and dad are gonna kill me.
Yeah, I think my mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me.
Yeah, so funny.
But then I started to think more and more, right? And this I feel like is the big question of the whole thing. Why is Sidney at the center of the story again? What's the motive? It needs to be something extremely compelling. And honestly, it needs to be connected to the past. Now, I know lots of people are going to hate me saying that. They'll be like, oh, you're just going to go back to the same shit again. But in fairness, if we're making Sidney like the center of the story, the center of the movie,
killer,
then the past is her story.
Yes,
like you can't bring Sidney back and go, well, this is Sidney in 2026 or whatever, and forget all that other stuff she went through. But that's her story.
It's Sidney the whole time. She's killed everybody. She manipulated Stu. She killed her own mother.
But you know what? I'm sure there's probably a fan theory out of that as well.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Because I know they tried to plug that stuff on the last one. I'm like, maybe it's Sidney. Who knows? Yeah. We should definitely leave it up to like some of the people in the chat for sure. And if you see this afterwards, make sure to leave what you think too. Because I'm curious.
I'm curious to see what other people think in the comments and stuff. Definitely do let us know like what you think it might be or how it might pan out. Like I was thinking about the idea of a time jump. Like, could we have a time jump from let's say we see an opening scene and then we jump further than 2026. Maybe it's not set in the current time, it's set in the future a bit, which would allow Sidney's daughter to be older, which would give her that kind of I guess bigger role, because like you're not going to have her and her 6-year-old daughter as like the
Yeah.
second part. She's going to have to be at least a teenager if they're going to have her like
Take the torch.
yeah, to kind of like play the same part, because supposedly her eldest daughter in the story, she's going to have 3 kids and 2 of them are going to go away with her husband, and then one is somehow going to be stuck in the story with her, and she's obviously older.
Weird.
She's obviously a teenager.
Yeah.
So it's something connected to her. Then there's lots of talk about like the Meeks girl, I can't remember her name, that she's gonna have a podcast and it's gonna be like all about the killings and stuff. And
Of
then
course.
Sydney's daughter is not going to be like Sydney was and kind of be a bit prudish when she was growing up. She's going to be rebelling. So she's going to be trying to investigate her long lost uncle Roman, and then this is where it's going to bring up all this shit from the past and somehow going to bring it all together. So much so that Sydney's going to be paranoid and she's going to be wondering, wait, is she fucking like working with somebody, or like do you know more than I know?
Oh, weird. Yeah. That's weird. That's a weird way to it is I'm actually curious of how they're gonna pan this out. And like I hope it's done well or I'm gonna be pissed.
Same as I did see people going, if Stu was actually alive in the movie, where was he? Why haven't we heard about him since? Did he survive and somehow disappear? Was he in a mental hospital rather than a jail due to his lawyers being able to argue that he was coerced by Billy to help him, and ends up getting maybe 20, 30 years in a facility or something, which would line up with the story set 30 years in the original movie? Could he play some sort of Hannibal Lecter style character helping them solve new murders?
It would be so weird.
That would be great.
He's not that smart though. That's why it wouldn't make sense. Hannibal Lecter was a genius.
The other thing we didn't talk about, I'm not going to get into the whole fan theory or anything, but there's always been that thing about like the Stu Ghostface cult, which was supposed to happen.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like that whole thing. So like, will that somehow come back? Because there's people feel like that we're going to see flashbacks to number 4, where you're going to find out that Charlie and what's her name were part of it.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And number 5, where you're going to see Jill and fucking Quaid or whatever were part of it. And that was going to be like a thing. But then I don't know what you do with fucking the Mongs from number 6, because they were just garbage. They were so forgettable and just garbage. Also, actually, as of like a couple of hours ago, Ethan Embry joins the cast of Scream 7. This is coming straight from Deadline. The Scream 7 cast continues to grow with the addition of Ethan Embry from First Man, Grace and Frankie, who will star alongside legacy members Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, Scott Foley, Matthew Lillard, Miss Gooding. Previously announced franchise newcomers, blah, blah, blah. Details of the plot of Spyglass and Paramount Pictures are currently under wraps.
Weird. I have no idea, everybody. I want to know what you guys think, because this is gonna be wild, and then we'll have to cover it once we watch the movie. It's like instantly.
It's gonna be so much fun though to watch, to see how like this all develops over the next while.
I know, it's crazy.
It's
interesting to puzzle over what could happen. I just want Stu to come back.
Same.
I want him to be alive.
I don't mind, right, if we have some sort of flashbacks and throwbacks to the previous ones, and then maybe give us a red herring thinking that he's part of like just we're just looking back at the past, and it turns out it's like dun dun dun, Stu, motherfucker, I'm actually here.
Just appears.
I did see people saying if they do the AI and deep fake thing to like make Sidney think she's gone crazy or she's haunted by visions of the past, that Stu's character will lean into this only to reveal that he is not a ghost at the end.
That would be kind of cool though.
If it's done right, but
if it's done, it can be done very wrong. And that's what the whole AI thing. Like, there's tons of movies already being pumped out about that stuff. I kind of don't. I want that more of either to be it's the beginning and you figure out what really happened, or it's the end or whatever, and they show and they do this whole flashback thing of Stu and Roman and all of them, like and Billy, like kind of congregating over like what they're gonna do to Maureen or whatever, or like somebody comes. I don't know. I don't know what I want to see, and I don't want it to be done wrong either, because it'll make me mad.
That's the problem with this, isn't it? It's going to be fun though over the next week, because it's not coming out for over a year, so we're going to have another 12 months of going on about this. But it's been fun to kind of, I guess, dive into this. Maybe we'll do it again in a couple of months when there's been more announcements and things leaked. We might be able to jump on and chat about this again. But yeah, for everybody who is listening after the fact, do make sure to let us know in the comments below wherever you're listening to it, whether it's Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, everywhere. Let us know what your theory
Spotify
is.
even, you know?
Yeah, what you think. Do you think we're wrong about anything? Do you think we're right about anything? What do you think would be good? Definitely let us know in the comments. And yeah, keep in touch with us on socials. You'll probably see us talk about some stuff on there too. And you might see the odd impromptu live stream from time to time.
Yes, support Strange Brew Podcast. Also, 5-star rating reviews, all that good stuff to support both of our shows, our Patrons. It means a lot, especially just even doing it for free is like the idea of leaving a 5-star review or subscribing to, like if you listen to Class Horrorcast, subscribing to Strange Brew Podcast on, Spotify or YouTube or Rumble or whatever it may be, vice versa, helping out both shows grow. But also, it does really help when you give us 5 stars and you leave a comment or a good review. It means more than you think.
100%. And yeah, appreciate everyone for taking the time to listen. And we'll be right back.
Stay horny for horror.